Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Today's topic is 3 steps to sustainable fat loss. I'll pass it over to Alex just to explain what sustainable fat loss actually means and really what it is.
Sustainable fat loss is something that's gotten really lost across social media, especially these days. Most of what we see that is looking at weight loss is looking at just that, weight loss. And if you have worked with a dietitian before, you worked with a strength coach before, you've probably heard us use more of the lingo of let's increase muscle or let's lose fat rather than just talking about weight itself. Sustainable fat loss is actually keeping off the fat that we lose for a sustained amount of time. And as easy as that sounds, it's become a lot harder, especially as fad diets have become more of a thing. They pop up a lot. I know Emily just did a podcast on this subject, but we know that a lot of fad diets, what they focus on is overall weight loss, not necessarily fat loss. So a lot of times you see really quick results because there is a loss of water, especially, but usually a combination of muscle and fat, which is, of course, not the goal, not what we want to do. When we're looking at sustainable fat loss, we are trying to lose just body fat, maintain our muscle, obviously stay hydrated, and keep our water retention normal. So when we're talking about sustainable fat loss, we're trying to keep muscle and sustainably lose fat through a progression nutrition plan, training plan that unfortunately is a little bit slower. That unfortunately is the case. There's no quick fix with this. It is something that takes the work. And I'm glad that we have a team that isn't going to lie and tell you otherwise. Like, there is a lot of work that has to go into this. The importance of like actual changes to make, this isn't something that's going to happen in a few weeks. We have to utilize a lot of these behavior changes over the course of at least months. What I would consider sustainable is keeping off that weight for months. Most of the fat diets, you'll see a loss of weight over a week, 2 weeks. A lot of them preach, lose 10 pounds in 10 days. That's not necessarily fat, nor is it sustainable. So a lot of these things are going to require some behavior changes. There isn't a quick supplement for it. There isn't a way around exercise, and especially not around nutrition. So luckily, we're able to help on that side and help you make those changes over time.
So Alex just gave a lot of what I'll qualify as like really important operative words that just kind of came up there going through my mind right now. Obviously, like the sustainable being a big key one. We talk about like behavior changes, habits. This isn't just like, take this pill or follow this diet or make sure you eat this food each day. There's a lot of things that go a little bit more around like lifestyle and general habits than just like these one quick fix. I think as we get into maybe a period of our life where we say like, hey, I want to, achieve this sustainable fat loss, or if it is, similar, just like I want to get stronger, grow muscle, whatever that is. I know we're focusing a little bit more on the fat loss right now, but it's really important that initially starting off, I know I'm kind of taking us back to like middle school here, and it seems kind of cliche, but I think there is a lot of merit into following these kind of smart goal objectives with that. It's kind of hard to have a good understanding of like where we want to be and what we want to do if we don't have a clear understanding up front of like what our goal or ideal outcome actually is, right? So SMART goals, again, we've probably all heard this a million times in our life, but something that's specific, something that is measurable, it is attainable, kind of synonymous with sustainable there. Something realistic and something that's time bound or time oriented. So saying something like if we're motivated enough and we're like, you know what, I want to lose weight. I just made that decision. I'm going to do that. That's really great. That's a good first step. But I think there's, maybe a second step that you can take with that kind of like self-talk of, okay, let's maybe kind of self-audit ourselves and have a better understanding of like, okay, well, what does me losing weight actually mean? Um, Rather than just saying like, I'm going to be a healthier person. Okay, can we get a little bit more specific and measurable? Like I want to lose, 5 pounds of fat by this certain date. Making sure that that date isn't, next week, because that would not be realistic or attainable. But again, giving ourselves a little bit better or just more specific, more objective of a goal. Because the reality is like the quote unquote smarter your goal is, like what you're way more likely for that ideal outcome to actually happen. Um, Another kind of strategy with this that we firmly believe in is like don't be afraid to share that goal with other people too. If you have a if you have a friend or your coworker or something that maybe kind of along the same lines of you is like oh yeah, I kind of want to make this change, like it's great to have that like accountability partner or someone that's like knows like once you say it out loud, like I want to do this, whether they hold you accountable to it or not, you've at least put it out there. And again, you're making yourself more likely to follow through with it. Same thing of just like writing your goals down. Make sure, put it on your mirror or something, who knows. As far as like what realistic fat loss can actually look like, it's a multivariable question. Like there's a lot of things that can go into that. We look at like basic rules of thumb, like we're looking at like just general weight loss. We're probably not looking to like if we're talking about something that is sustainable, that we're not just going to throw all the weight right back on. Honestly, 1 to maybe 2 pounds a week is going to be what really we're looking at as sustainable, and that's just weight loss. Um, as we lose fat, or when we're trying to, lose just that fat, um, obviously, there's strategies like, the amount of protein we eat or the type of training we do that mitigate the amount of muscle that we might lose in that weight loss. To make sure that, again, like the weight that we are losing is more primarily fat. But we do have to be strategic in how we do that as well. And I can let our dietitians maybe kind of touch on that in a little bit as well. But again, we talk about like being realistic and having sustainable fat loss. Again, something that may be no more than, again, at the high end, maybe 2 pounds a week. Um, but again, at the end of the day, and it doesn't just have to be like, okay, that needs to be my goal. Something that I think is just as effective, if not more effective than like, okay, then in the next 4 weeks, I want to lose 8 pounds. Another good smart goal may be like, okay, for the next 4 weeks, I want to make sure that I limit my amount of like junk food or sweets or something by this amount. I want to make sure that I drink this much water every day. And, don't just put all the focus on like what we're losing, but think of the other sustainable like lifestyle habits that you can make with that as well, that I'm sure we could go down a long list of too. But again, don't just focus on the output and like I need to lose this many calories so I can weigh this much weight. Focus on the lifestyle changes too, of make sure you eat some vegetables every day. Make sure you drink enough water. Make sure you do have enough calories, but they're good quality calories and, good foods and not just crap quality, So those SMART goals don't have to just be outcome oriented from a weight loss perspective, but definitely should be from a lifestyle perspective as well.
I know we're throwing a lot of stuff at you, but I think a good goal is if you're able to take 1 to 2 things from this and apply it to your everyday, that's a huge win. So we had Alex going over, what is sustainable fat loss. So she went over what just is it? What's the definition of that? And Aaron started talking about SMART goals and what it means to make a specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound goal. And now I'm kind of going to get into establishing healthy habits and what are some of these healthy habits that you can pick from so that you can see success in weight loss. So there's a lot of different ways that we can go about this. And there's a lot of different variables that come with this. And we're treating everybody as individuals. So maybe you're someone who needs to pick one healthy habit to change per week and build onto that, right? Kind of like a slow burner. Are you a slow burner, right? Some people like to go full in. They like to pick a few different ones, work on each one throughout the week and build onto that. So first off, where do you kind of lie in that? Are you pick one behavior change per week and really have good success with it and build on? Or are you going to go full in, do this, and that's the way that you work, right? So some of the habits that we're talking about, and I can go off these 4 main ones here: staying active, eating healthy, getting in plenty of sleep, and asking for help, right? So when we're talking about establishing healthy habits, we're thinking about, where is this going to fit into your lifestyle? Everybody has a different schedule. Some people have kids. Some people are taking care of their parents. Some people are moving. Some people have really stressful jobs, right? So take a look at your calendar and pick, when we're talking about staying active, when are the times that you can be active? And active is different for everyone. Sometimes it's working out in your home gym. Sometimes it's taking the stairs. Sometimes it's getting that hour-long walk with your dog, right? So staying active, doing more than you were doing before is going to help facilitate fat loss, right? Calories in versus calories out. Put it on your calendar, just like you would a meeting, or just like you would a dinner meetup. Like, put it on your calendar and you're going to achieve that. So staying active, when in the week can you be active, right? Eating healthy. Like Aaron had mentioned, if you have a goal, which is the perfect goal, 1 to 2 pounds, right? We don't want to lose more than 2 pounds per week. Then we're starting to talk about losing lean body mass, your performance weight, the good weight, right? We don't want to touch that weight. So it does happen slowly, but it's the right weight that we're losing, that fat mass, right? That storage around your belly, possibly. So eating healthy, this could look very different for a lot of people, but choosing more whole foods versus processed foods, right? So maybe you're looking at your week and you're thinking to yourself, how many whole foods am I eating versus processed? That might be an area that you can fix when you make your next grocery list, right? So eating healthy, step by step, choosing better quality foods. Then we could talk about portion size. So making sure that you're making sure that you're in a calorie deficit, as well as with your workouts. So making sure that you're in a calorie deficit. Then we start talking about the quantity of food. And then we start talking about the fuel timing. When you're eating throughout the day so that you could support your workouts, so that you have good energy and you're making sure you're maintaining your lean body mass, right? So those are the 3 main things in eating healthy: the kind of food, the amount of food, and when you're eating throughout the day. So you can pick off things each week to work on, establish that healthy habit. And it starts with a grocery list, really. Plenty of sleep, right? So what are you doing to set yourself up for good sleep? How many hours are you getting right now? What kind of sleep hygiene can you work on to make sure that you're getting to sleep well and you're staying asleep throughout the night, right? Sleep is the number 1 source of where we get all of our recovery in. We want good sleep. So setting yourself up with healthy habits, telling yourself, okay, by 8 p.m., I'm going to start my sleep routine, brush my teeth, feed my dog, whatever you got to do, get in bed by this time, read a chapter of my book, put my phone down, take that magnesium if you need to take that magnesium, and stick to that healthy habit and have a goal for yourself that week. I want this many hours of sleep and continue to build off of that. The fourth one, ask for help. This is huge. And I don't think enough people think about the power of your support system when you're establishing healthy habits, like having a goal to lose fat mass. Some people just need one person. Some people need an army, but pick your team, pick your support team, right? So it might be even just telling someone you're going to start establishing this healthy habit. They might say to you, I want to do that too. Like, let's team up in this and support each other. This is going to help you stick to this while having support, someone to lean on to. So establishing healthy habits, get it into your schedule, just like you would work. Make sure you're setting yourself up to eat well with a good grocery list. Make sure you're getting in some good sleep, work on your sleep hygiene, and get that support system going. And you will see success slowly but surely in your weight loss journey.
Great information from both of you guys, Erin and Emily. And now we finally reached step 3. So creating a balanced nutrition plan. I will be very biased and say that I think that this is probably the most important part in sustainable fat loss. But I think that even Erin could tell you, like, you can lift the house, you can run a marathon, but if you aren't doing anything on the nutrition side, it's going to be nearly impossible to change your body composition. And that brings me back to the point where I talked earlier, like, I'm not just talking about weight loss, I am talking about fat loss. And just as there is a difference between fat loss and weight loss, there is a difference on the nutrition side where it's not just calories in, calories out. I think that that is probably the biggest mistake when it comes to creating a nutrition plan. A lot of people think that it is that simple. Like, if I eat less calories, I am going to lose fat. When in reality, you might lose weight. You might be losing water, you might be losing muscle too, but you're going to lose weight. When you want to be in a calorie deficit, you want it to be in a deficit that is created by adding in the correct things and maybe decreasing some of the things that promote more fat gain in your diet. This is an important thing to think about, is not just the calories, but actually looking into the macro and micronutrients that you're consuming. And I think another big misconception out there is that there has to be foods cut out in order to lose weight and do so sustainably. And I think that this is something our team does a really good job of making sure that you are actually still incorporating all of the foods that you really love and enjoy, but doing so in a way that still helps promote these goals. So maybe we are still having Chick-fil-A every so often, but we're changing what we get from there in order to better fit the macro and micronutrients that we need. So not thinking about like, oh, I can't eat fried food ever. I can't have alcohol ever. I can't have sweets ever. Not thinking in that mindset, but actually thinking like, okay, what macronutrients and micronutrients can help support my goal of fat loss? So probably the most important things for most people. And obviously a nutrition plan is something that is very individualized. There isn't a, cookie cutter plan for everyone, but generally speaking, the most important things are going to be increasing your protein intake and increasing your fiber intake. So how can I get in more protein in my diet? Not only to help us maintain that muscle mass, but also protein is one of the more satiating macronutrients that helps keep us full. It's a lot of work for our body to break down protein. So that actually helps us with staying full throughout the day while we're in a calorie deficit. And then the same with fiber. We're actually having more fiber can actually help you stay full longer. And things that have a lot of fiber in it tend to be more micronutrient dense foods and tend to be lower on the calorie side. So helping add volume to your food without adding more calories when we're talking about getting into a fat loss goal. So on the strategy side, like when we're talking about like meal planning and prepping, what can you do, generally speaking, to reach this goal? I think that it's pretty much going back to what Emily's talking about. Figure out where you're at with like your actual habits in your day to day. Like, are you someone that has time to meal prep for a whole week? Or is meal planning for you literally just writing down, okay, like I'm going to have this for my breakfast every single day. It doesn't require any prep. Like maybe I'm literally getting, Starbucks egg bites and that's where I'm at in this journey. But I have planned out like this is where I'm going to stop for food and this is what I'm going to get there. Maybe it's not even, actually prepping the food yourself in your kitchen, but you're taking that step of like, this is what works for my nutrition plan rather than, going out to eat 6 times a week to deciding that you're going to meal prep for 7 days. Is that realistic? Probably not. Like go back to your goal. Make sure that it's something that is actually realistic for your lifestyle. So I think that some of the more helpful things are going to be just not necessarily meal prepping, but meal planning in the sense that you are going to be planning out what you eat at these meals, but maybe it's not actually in the kitchen. Some people, it for sure is. For others, it's not. I think that, myself and Emily do a really good job of helping people meet where they're at and, okay, like, is this person at work for 12 hours, hospital workers? We have quite a few people who are nurses, doctors. You can't necessarily have meal prepped meals. You might not have access to even a microwave at work. Like what works for you? I think that this is where we really come in on the strategy side. How can we help you to actually make this plan and make it work for you for a sustained amount of time?
We'll pop over to questions now, which we got quite a few of them here. Ruth, do you want to go ahead and start with the questions that you have?
Yeah, so I'll go with the first one. Should I count calories?
Should I count calories? I'll start with this. If you have a weight loss goal, it's going to be important to know how many calories you're getting in throughout the day, right? So if we're putting you in a calorie deficit, if it's a 250 calorie deficit up to the 1,000 calorie deficit, which is the 2-pound mark per week loss, we will need to know where you're at. I would say majority of the clients that I work with, when we're starting to talk about losing weight, and I ask, how many calories do you eat in a day? I have no idea, they say, right? I have no idea. That's a good start, right? So first, I let them know that there are ways that we can figure out how many calories you're getting in throughout the day. It's going to take some tracking, but this is not going to be a lifelong thing that you're going to have to do. If you think about it, you have your familiar foods that you eat throughout the week, right? So what I let them know is we will track until those familiar foods are recognized. And eventually, that bowl that you use every single day or that plate that you use every single day, how much oatmeal is the 300 calorie mark, right? How much that one piece of toast, 2 eggs, and a sausage is going to be on MyFitnessPal or Eat Love. So I let them know in the beginning, it's important to know how much you are consuming as far as calories go. And then we put in a calorie deficit. Then we make small achievable goals as far as portion size decrease throughout the week so that you're hitting that calorie goal. So do I need to count calories? It's going to be a helpful tool in the beginning to recognize how much you're eating and where the calorie deficit is going to sit, but is not going to be something that you're going to need to do forever. But it is, and it always has been for the clients that I've worked with, very eye-opening as far as how many calories plus macronutrients that they're ingesting in throughout the week. So the answer is it is a helpful tool, but it is not something that you're going to have to do for your whole entire weight loss journey.
And I'll add to that, like, that is where we do a great job, is getting you guys to that point. I think that no one should have to be tracking calories, while they're at a wedding, at their kid's birthday party. Like, there are times that it's good to know what you're having, but you get into the point where you've gotten these healthy habits established and like what is a better choice over others. And you might not even know the exact calorie difference, but that like putting powdered peanut butter in your oatmeal is going to be less calories than putting a spoonful of creamy Jif in your oatmeal. And it might not even be true, like, I know exactly it's 120 calories less, whatever it is. But you're at least now like at the point where you recognize, like, oh, that's a lot of calories. This isn't a lot of calories, just from tracking from the beginning.
And I will add one more bit, because I do have clients that are like, I am not even going to track for a day. I don't know technology. I don't want to. We can, and we use this tool all the time as far as what your plate looks like. So the portions on your plate, right? So if you're sending us pictures or we're looking at your food diary and we're looking at the portions on your plate, we will be there to recommend, let's bump up the colors on your plate, which is lower calorie, more fiber, more nutrient dense, right? Micronutrients. And let's decrease the grains a little bit while maintaining the same amount of proteins. Things like that we can have a visual on, where we know it's going to decrease the calories some, and still give you success. So there are ways that we can go about it without counting calories. For those who are like, no way, I'm not touching a number and I don't want to use technology.
Is it healthy to cut carbs completely if you want to be in a calorie deficit?
So I think people forget that carbohydrates are your fruits and your vegetables too. So when people say, oh, I don't eat carbs, you don't have any fruits and vegetables. Oh yeah, well, I have my fruits and vegetables. Perfect. You're eating carbs. I think what people are talking about is grains, right? Their rice, their pastas, their breads. So, do I need to not eat carbohydrates? Absolutely not. Carbohydrates are our number one fuel source. Carbohydrates come with a ton of micronutrients to de-inflame us, help us in our workouts, start off our day, normalize our blood sugar. We need carbohydrates, but there's smart carbohydrates and then there's not so smart carbohydrates. So we want to focus on the smart carbohydrates, the ones that come with a lot of micronutrients, come with a lot of fiber, our fruits and our vegetables and our whole grains, right? But when we're talking about weight loss, we can decrease some of the grains that we're eating, but we bump up the colorful carbs as far as like our fruits and vegetables go.
Okay, next question is how to lose fat and build muscle.
Yeah, I'll kind of start that off actually. From a training perspective, I mean, it's definitely something that you can probably, or you might need to be a little bit more strategic in the kitchen or with your nutrition than, from the training standpoint. But I do just want to make the emphasis to where, like, some people try to emphasize like being polarized of like you can only build muscle, or like you can only use fat. Like, we've over glorified this like bulking and cutting type training cycles. And that's not really the case. Like, they're not mutually exclusive whatsoever. So like you can absolutely do both at the same time, but the answer from a training perspective honestly isn't a very sexy answer. It's like the best way to do it is more than anything, it's just consistency when it comes to training. Again, you may need to be a little bit more strategic on the nutrition side, but consistency on the training side is going to be really important. We talk about like building muscle inherently, like, okay, like building muscle hypertrophy, like you need to give yourself or your body enough stimulus to where you're actually breaking down like the muscles in your body. So like that doesn't mean like, if you're just going to go for a walk every day, for most people, that's probably not really going to build any muscle. Like there is a lot of merit to actually putting yourself under some sort of heavy stimulus, resistance, moving that about and around, and whatever method's tolerable for you. And there's a million ways to do that. And we're not going to go down the rabbit hole of, you know, how to work out. But I think getting a good balance of making sure that you are lifting weights, picking up heavy objects and putting them down in a safe way, while still at the end of the day, making sure that like we're within the guidelines of like expending enough calories to where we are burning enough fat too. But again, all in all, with the understanding that like they're not mutually exclusive, that as you're building muscle, you can be learning fat or losing fat and vice versa.
Only thing I would really add to that is that with muscle and fat loss, I kind of touched on the fact that there's a lot of misconception behind the weight and fat loss. And I think when you're talking about like both gaining muscle and losing body fat, this is where a lot of people get frustrated when looking at just a numerical scale. You don't see a lot of changes. And that's just because a lot of people are gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time. And there are a few clients of ours that are like that. They may not have seen a significant change in the actual weight on a regular old scale, but body comp wise, they've gained muscle and lost body fat, which is why I highly encourage anyone to also do a body comp assessment, not just look at a regular old scale that might be in your home.
And eat your protein. Eat more protein than you probably think you need to, because like we already said, increases your satiety, you don't feel as hungry, and that's what's going to preserve and build your muscle. So eat your damn protein.
So the next one is how to break a plateau.
I'm assuming we're talking just like an overall weight plateau. And there's a lot of complicated answers, which is why I think we were quiet all for a minute, to what a plateau can mean or what the cause of that can be. But I think for most people, hitting a plateau on the nutrition side can be just the fact that now you've reached a weight where the calorie goals that you had, the protein goals that you had, the carb goals you had are no longer serving the weight that you are currently at. And it's time to maybe rethink, readjust your program, your plan. And it's probably the same on Erin's side, but I would say that it's probably time to revisit what you're actually doing on the nutrition side if you're hitting a plateau. It's not that you're necessarily doing anything wrong. It's just you have a new body composition and you need a new plan to go with said body comp.
Why do I crash in the afternoon? It's my favorite one.
A lot of different variables. The thing that I think about is fuel timing. Are you eating at the right times for decreasing the chance of a crash, right? So all depending on where your training is in the day, what your work schedule is like in the day, but are you properly fueling? Are you properly fueling up for your training? Are you properly recovering from your training with the right calories, with the right macronutrients? And are you eating those snacks in between your meals? I also think about caffeine. Have you been overly caffeinating yourself all, morning long, where you have suppressed your appetite and you're not getting in enough calories, and then all of a sudden the caffeine wears away and your blood sugars are low and you're like, whoa, who am I? And I need to go take a nap and I need to get out of here from work. So a lot of different variables go with it. But remember, caffeine is a suppressant. If you're going to be drinking in the morning, you definitely still need your real energy, your calories, right? So stick to your breakfast, look forward to your lunch, get that snack in, that balanced snack, the carbohydrate source plus protein source to stabilize your blood sugars, get you ready for dinner, right? So continuously give yourself those nutrients throughout the day. Recognize that caffeine is a fake energy source. I also think about sleep. Make sure that you're getting in proper sleep throughout the day and staying hydrated. So it can be a lot of different variables, but there's things that you can do to put in place throughout your day to not have that crash in the afternoon.
How do I avoid a cut after building? Will a cut definitely be needed to feel comfortable, or can I even out in maintenance?
Bulk and cut are just fancier words for like being in a calorie surplus versus a calorie deficit. So the way to avoid being in a cut is avoiding being in a deficit. If you're trying to change your body composition, as in like you are feeling heavy, like you feel like you have too much body fat on your body, you can be changing what you're eating and sustainably losing fat rather than necessarily cutting. I feel like cutting is more so referring to very quickly losing body fat and water to make you look, more toned, more ripped. Cutting is not necessarily the same thing as fat loss. So I would say that what you're looking for is sustainable fat loss.
Good protein options for vegetarians. No beans.
For vegetarians, no beans. I would love to hear a little bit more about that. Why? I'd love to meet with you. But without beans, I would say big sources are going to be tofu, tempeh. Like these are literally all different forms of soy, because if we're cutting out beans, we're cutting out a lot of different options on the vegetarian side. But soy milk, or going for higher protein dairy options like cottage cheese, low fat mozzarella sticks like string cheese, or like an ultra filtered milk. Like a lot of people know the company Fairlife, like they have a lot of higher protein dairy options that are lower in fat and lower in lactose, the sugar in milk. So there are some options out there, but I would highly suggest trying out beans if that isn't something that is an allergy or intolerance to you. There are a lot of ways that can be tasty that you don't taste beans. Personally, I really like to blend white beans into like a pasta sauce to make it like creamy. There are ways to like enjoy beans without having beans on your plate if it's just I don't like beans situation.
What are some healthy options at the airport?
I've definitely seen this one get better and better. I think we can all attest to that, getting just better and better. As I've seen, like even like convenience stores around get like better and better. So I would try to prep and bring what you can, but I would go to the refrigerated section in those little like convenience stores, or the stores where you find the magazines or the gifts. There's plenty around. But in those refrigerated cold stores, there's usually nice little packets with cheese, crackers, grapes, maybe like meat. There's also single like cheese sticks or like cheese squares. You also find Greek yogurt, drinkable yogurts. There are some really great protein drinks as well. Core Power, Fairlife, like what Alex was mentioning. There are also like veggie options that I've seen that are really nice. There are nice wraps like chicken Caesar salad wraps. So I'm seeing some really great options. Also on the dry section, you're going to find a ton of different nuts. I'm like, where did these nuts come from? I haven't even seen this kind of variety in the grocery store. Like, why is it at the airport? Tons of different nuts, tons of different seeds, tons of different trail mix. some good cracker ideas, and some good Nutri-Grain bar and protein bar ideas. So what I would recommend is definitely make sure you have your water on you, or something hydrating like coconut water, or just like regular water, kombucha. Go for, if you have no restrictions, go for a dairy option. If you're trying to get in a snack, go for some kind of carb option like crackers or a Nutri-Grain bar or a whole piece of fruit. Sometimes I've been seeing whole pieces of fruit. My tip would be look at the expiration date or the eat by date on those packaged like wraps and the little containers of like cheese, crackers, grapes, and all that. And make sure you're picking one where the date is far off. So you might see like the date is like the 28th, the 29th, and the 30th. Like go for the 30th. That's going to be freshest, and you might even see the difference. So lots of great options there. And then if you're going to a restaurant, make sure that you're picking a plate that is well balanced. It has a nice piece of some kind of protein, seafood, lean piece of chicken, some veg on there, and some grain. Try to not get the soda. You can go for like sparkling water or have your water on you. And stick to your guns, because no one wants a upset gut on the plane ride or on your vacation.
Yeah, on that note, just quick addition that I'll make to that is like staying is consistent to like what regular diet you may have going as well. Like if you already feel like at home you have a pretty good system going with like, I eat mostly these meals, and maybe it's consistent, maybe it's not. Just kind of sticking to like a relatively similar fashion. Like I was flying last week. I do prep all my foods, and unfortunately, two of my meals exploded because I checked my bag and didn't pack them well. So it was just like plain like some turkey and rice. So I just wanted protein and a rice. So I found this like Mexican place that I just got their plain steak and rice. It wasn't the exact same thing, but close enough to kind of what I was used to for that time of day and everything too. And may not be perfect, but if you do have a good system that you're following, just figuring out and looking at what options there are to kind of best fit what you're already kind of used to from that side too.